YouTube, see how we're doing. Hello out there. If you can see this, we're here for another live video. We'll give YouTube a moment. See how we're doing. It looks like we're in. All right, fantastic. And let's make sure this is working. Okay, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here. All right, let's get the camera looking good. Okay, all right. Today we're going to talk about how to correct your own mistakes. And so this is a much faster way to get fluent than trying to wait for a teacher to correct you. It's nice if you do have someone, but most people don't. And even if you do have a teacher, it's probably infrequently. Maybe you could live around native speakers like me, so I have native speakers around me, but even my own wife will not correct any mistakes I might make or questions I have about Japanese. So I'll ask her questions and she can't really help me. So I have to solve my own problems, and this is how I get fluent. So you can apply this thing. Oh my goodness, this blue really sticks on here. All right. All right, let's get started. All right, nice to see everybody out there. If you are here and you can hear me, all right. Dalia says, "Dear teacher, I come from STP. STP. I don't know what that flag is. I can barely see that, STP. Let me know what that is." But anyway, today we're going to talk about, again, how to correct your own mistakes. So as I mentioned in the quick introduction to this video, the basic idea is that it's much easier if you are actively trying to correct your own mistakes by learning the right patterns before you make them. Okay, so we want you to actually correct your mistakes before you make them, rather than a kind of a typical approach where you don't really understand what you're saying and then you try speaking with people and then you make a mistake and either they correct you or maybe you discover later that you said the wrong thing, and that's where you start to struggle. So I've experienced this myself many times as a language learner for many years. But once I started being active about how I learn, rather than being kind of passive and waiting for other people to correct me, and often people will be even too polite to say anything. So especially me being in Japan, I could speak really bad Japanese and people would just say, "Wow, that Japanese is really good." So they're just being polite, and it's nice and friendly, and I understand that, but it's really a bad way to get corrections for your English or whatever language it is you're learning. So just to talk about that, this should not be that long of a video, but if you have questions as we go or anything even unrelated to today's topic, I'll do my best to answer those questions. But I just wanted to talk about this from more like the way you learn languages natively, so the way you learn your native language, and then thinking about how you apply those same things to learning English. So rather than trying to study rules, you should be looking at situations. And what this means is maybe you're interested in something or you want to talk about like a particular action or a particular context, or something happens, like what do you do when you order pizza, or what do you do when you go to a park and play, or something like that. There's specific vocabulary for each of these things, but there's also a wide range of vocabulary you can use. And so the more examples you get of native speakers talking about things, the better you will feel about this. So you get specific situational vocabulary, but you can also learn specific grammar and get those patterns as well. So usually what happens when you're learning your native language is you're not actually speaking with people most of the time. I mean, some people might do that, but most people are either just doing work by themselves, or maybe they have to write something or something like that. But usually they're getting input from other sources. So they're watching movies and TV shows, or they're reading blogs or newspapers or something. And you're not actually repeating anything or saying anything back to that media. So if I'm watching a TV show, or even you watching this video right now, you're not repeating anything. Well, you could be, I suppose, but you're not really having a conversation with me. You're listening to my input. And if I'm speaking correctly, then you're getting an example of correct input, okay? So instead of trying to think about practice as like we kind of learn something to a limited or low or very small degree, so I get like a grammar rule or a simple sentence structure and try to repeat that again and again, what you should be doing is spending a lot more time getting more input. So I'll talk about that in this video. Just go through chat, make sure I haven't missed any questions, but that is the subject for today. All right, nice to see people over there. Marco Troiano, nice to see you there for the lessons. Kanzi, Masal, Armando, how's it going? Everything is going fine. Hi, sir. Fad from India. Sima, I can't read. I can only read Stoner with that Korean over there. Hello. Mundo, hello from Angola, from America, STP, Sao Tome and Principe. Ah, the island. Ah, okay. I got you. Maria's hello. Lars Morning, is that supposed to be Morning Star? Alfonso, best teacher ever, you're too kind. Dion, am I pronouncing that correctly? Hello, I'm Brazilian. Hello, teacher. Mint water over there. Yes, I do have my big jug, my big bottle of mint water. We'll see how long I go. I don't think this will be another like hour and a half video, but we'll see. Thanks for everything. That's my goat, the goat. Look at that. And Wellington, professor from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Okay, nice to see everybody there. All right, so again, the subject of this video is more about active learning rather than learning something to a shallow degree and not being able to use it fluently. So there are basically two ways, there are actually many ways, but we'll just talk about the two main ideas about improving, and these are things you can do all by yourself. So the first one, as I just mentioned, we have different situations. And then we have like specific grammar structures, like we're looking for like how to say a particular thing, but you could use this in really many different situations. So we'll talk about grammar, or we'll just say sentence structures. All right, so I'm going to describe this in the way I do it for learning Japanese. And so when I think about like anything I'm trying to learn as a learner of Japanese, I might get an example, or I might be in a conversation and I hear something and I don't quite understand it. I can't understand it from the context. Maybe I will like note that. We can use this as a very good phrase here. A mental note. So instead of taking a physical note, like I write a note down on a notepad, I take, so we can say take a mental note. So I note something in my mind, like, oh, that was some interesting grammar, or I didn't know that vocabulary could be used in a particular way. So I take a mental note of something, and then after I get that information, then I can start applying these particular things. And I think, okay, what are we talking about? And then is it like a particular grammar structure? And you can kind of put vocabulary in this as well. The basic point is, are you focusing on specific vocabulary you want to learn? Like individual words and phrases, or are you talking about like a sentence structure, which is like some kind of grammar? So if I think, I wish I would have done something. So if I hear that from someone like, oh, that's an interesting, like, I wish I would have, maybe it sounds a little bit difficult for me. I have to think about that. I wish I would have. So I'm at first trying to think about really what the situation is, and you'll notice that these are connected. So in the case of something like I wish I would have, then I'm thinking, okay, first of all, what is the person trying to say? So I'm in a conversation and someone is talking to me and they say, oh, I wish I would have turned off my light this morning. So they left their house and they forgot to do something. So, and I'm looking at them, even if I don't understand all of those words, I'm thinking, what's happening in this situation? So you see these are all still connected. Grammar is still connected with situations, and situations are still expressed with grammar. But it's just how you think about these. So again, in this example, I'm hearing a specific sentence structure. I wish I would have. Let me write this for you here. I wish I would have. So you'll hear particular things like this, and rather than first trying to think about the grammar or like I and then would and what the specific words are, we try to think about the situation and understand what's happening here. So what does that mean when someone says, I wish I would have done something? The basic idea is regret. So they are sad or frustrated or disappointed or something because they didn't do something else. Okay, so even if you can't remember like a longer sentence structure like this, we want to first understand just what the meaning of that is. Okay, and if you can't do that from context, then we take a kind of mental note. And again, this is when we are in a conversation with someone. Don't worry about trying to understand everything. So if you are in a conversation, so even me, I might watch a movie or a TV show or something in Japanese, and if I don't understand every word, I don't really worry about it. I focus on a few things, and then I learn those and maybe come back, and if I'm watching the movie again, then I can try to focus on some other things. But it's better just to take a few things or just one and focus on that. So if you hear an interesting thing like, oh, I wish I would have studied more for that test. I wish I would have like eaten more food this morning, or I wish I would have had breakfast. I wish I would have eaten breakfast. And so when you get something like this, you will hear natives use this as a pattern all by itself, or I wish I would have, or I'm talking about something like, oh, I wish my mom would have, I don't know, given me more money or something like that. So I wish somebody did something else. And as you get this, that's where we start being more active about our learning, and we start getting lots of examples. All right. So at this stage, we're just talking about maybe we hear something interesting, or we find something, or we want to say something. And so we learn, I'm just giving a kind of longer, more complex example. But after we get this, the next thing we want to do is start getting lots of examples so we get ourselves used to this grammar construction or whatever this thing is. So it could be vocabulary, or it could be a particular like grammar point, a way of expressing an idea. So like another way of saying this, so the same situation of expressing regret is like, I wish I had, like I wish I had, so I wish I had done something. So I wish I had eaten breakfast. It's the same idea. I wish I would have eaten, same thing. All right, so both of those are the same, but you will hear these in the same situation. Different people might express it differently. All right. Let me know if I'm going too quickly or not explaining this clearly, but the main idea I just want to repeat is that rather than learning something just a little bit where you don't quite understand it, or you hear something in a conversation, I really want you to prepare well so that when you are in conversations, you don't make the mistakes, okay? Or things are actually quite easy to understand because you've already prepared for them. So as an example, kind of related to this, if you every day have to do some particular job, or you talk with customers or do something like that, you should get lots of examples of that thing. And you can get lots of examples even if you were not in that situation. So let's say I will start a job where I am teaching people how to fish, just as an example. So I'm starting a new job. I haven't started the job yet, but maybe next week I will begin the job. I can actually watch lots of videos on YouTube about native speakers fishing or teaching people how to fish. There are lots of videos that teach people how to do that. So maybe I know how to fish, but my English is not very good and I can't explain that. So I watch other people talking about these things, and as I get all of these examples, that's where I feel much more confident, and maybe I thought I should say this, but oh, actually I should express something in a different way. Okay, so the correction that comes is not from like a live person where you're sitting there asking them questions. It's nice if you can do that, but most people don't have that opportunity. Even me, like being in a native country, so I'm a Japanese learner in Japan, and I don't have people to ask. I can't just like ask people questions all the time. I suppose I could try, but maybe some people couldn't answer the question because not a lot of just everyday people can explain why language works the way it does. Just people aren't like language teachers even if they know the language. But maybe people are busy or they don't want to help me or whatever. There are lots of reasons why it's difficult to do that. But the good news is I can use Google or ChatGPT or YouTube or lots of other resources where if I want to find out about how to say something, and it could be a situation, or if I want to talk about like a specific like what about like I don't know what do you call it like even a particular grammar point, like how do I express regret or how do I express surprise? So if I want to learn just like about saying like reacting to something in a surprising way, so in Japan, like people, like you hear something and you get kind of startled, it's like oh, bikkuri shita, bikkuri, bikkuri. All right, and that's like one way people might do this, but other people might say something different, okay? But as I watch different people being surprised, then I will hear, oh, okay, here are these different ways of expressing that, okay? And so like I will say like to Japanese kids out here, I'll say like bikkuri donkey, which is just the name of a restaurant, but they are like surprised by that. Okay, so I'm able to play with the language a little bit. But you see, again, it's the same idea of we're taking a situation, and that situation can be like a bigger thing, like how to grow potatoes, or even like how to begin a speech. So if I watch 10 different speeches and see how different people deliver that, then I will feel much better about giving my own speech. Okay, or if I'm looking at something very simple, which is a specific grammar point, this is even easier, where I can like type that into ChatGPT or Google and just say, give me 20 different examples with I wish I would have. And it will give you lots of examples and you will begin to think about it in English rather than trying to translate that in your native language. Because the goal really is to know what is the correct pattern to use. Okay, so number one, what is the correct pattern? And number two, in really any situation, there are many ways to express yourself. So there could be many different ways to express something. It could be a short way, a long way, depending on who you're speaking with. But again, that's the basic idea. Let me go back and check chat, make sure people are still following me over here. All right. Red Goat says, hi, sir. I hope you're having a good day. You're by far the best teacher that gives methods that actually work. So again, we would say give methods that actually work. So this is subject-verb agreement. Very good. I appreciate the compliment, but I always want to help make sure people are using the right things. So if you have someone like me to help correct you, like people in Fluent for Life do, that's great. But if not, again, this is how you would do it. So think about something you want to say. You have a particular idea or a particular grammar point. So I want to say like, how do I express regret? So I'll give you a quick example about this. I was at a funeral in Japan, I don't know, a few months ago. In America, we have specific phrases that we say to people when we visit someone at a family, like at a family gathering, so like at a funeral. So usually, like maybe my friend's father dies, and I will go and like I will say things like, I'm sorry for your loss, or like he was a good man, or I'm terribly sorry to hear about that. But I didn't know those particular phrases for Japanese, like for going to a funeral. I've been to many funerals, but I would go and listen to people and nobody really says anything in particular, like, you know, the kind of like specific phrases like that you would hear for those situations. So I was trying to think, and I asked my wife and like her sister and her mother, I say, well, what do people say at a funeral like that? When you're like, do you say like, I'm sorry, or what do you say? And they couldn't really tell me. So in that way, like it's a similar situation to another I think, who was that? Was that Keiko? Who was that asked me before about osaki ni shitsurei shimasu? So this is like a Japanese situation where a Japanese person is going home early and they want to say, I'm sorry for like leaving before you. But the same situation for English speakers, we wouldn't really say that. So we would say, oh, well, I'll see you later, or like have a good day or something like that, but we don't really apologize for leaving early. So this is why we don't want to translate. We want to look at situations and get lots of examples of what natives say in these situations. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, let me go through and finish that though. Sorry, I left that in the middle of that comment though, but thank you very much, Red Goat. So under whatever circumstances, keep giving us gems. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. CK says, hello, teacher. I'm Somalia. Now, I want to be careful here. This is another example of basic grammar. You would say, I'm Somalian, or I'm Somali, whichever one you say, or I'm from Somalia. So I think like, wasn't that like Kennedy went to Germany and he said like Ich bin ein Berliner or something, which is like I am a jelly donut rather than like what you. I don't speak German, but it's just like an interesting thing. If you're going to, rather than try to understand the grammar, it's much more difficult to look at something like that and try to memorize it. It's much easier if you get a 30, 40, 50, 100 different varied examples of natives using that specific thing. If you do that, you will feel very confident and you won't make that mistake in your conversations. All right, let's see. Alfonso says, I can't still understand if we need to be brushing up our vocabulary. I still can't understand if we need to be brushing up our vocabulary to become fluent. First of all, the phrase like to brush up, this is talking about if you have not done something in a while, typically, and like you need to start doing it again. So maybe I'm living in Japan right now. I speak Japanese every day, but then I go back to America. I don't speak Japanese at all. And then I return to Japan 10 years later, and I need to brush up on my Japanese. You'll hear both of those, brush up and brush up on. But in that case, it's like I need to kind of like polish that thing again because it's a little bit old. A similar way of expressing that is I'm rusty. I'm rusty. So if you think about if you leave a bicycle outside in the rain for a long time, it gets old and rusty, just like your skill, like being able to speak a language. So my language ability is getting rusty, or I have become rusty in that way. So there are lots of different ways to express things, but the basic idea is we want to see what people are saying in those particular situations. And then this is the key here, get lots of examples. Get lots and lots and lots of examples. Okay, this is why like every Fluent for Life lesson set, we've got like, 10, 20, could be like even 100 different examples of certain things. Okay, because we really want to make sure you feel confident and certain about what you're saying. All right, okay, let me make sure I got that. So again, like make sure if we need to brush up the vocabulary. So if you're still, or continuously, I should say, continuously learning English, then you don't really need to brush up anything. The point is you should just be learning and understanding much more, and that way you will feel much more confident when you speak. So if you don't feel confident about something, it means there's some kind of doubt there that's stopping you from speaking. So you need to clear that doubt by answering that question or just getting more examples of whatever that thing is. I'm Bharat, nice to see you there. Bharat. Okay, I got that correct. Good morning, sir. Guys, don't forget to like, says Alfonso. Thank you. This is just a quick psychological thing. It's better to say, remember to do something. That way people, if you say don't forget, then they will think forget. So it's better to say remember to do something. Bridget, nice to see you there. My favorite teacher. Hello, it's my pleasure. Samir, we are still sleeping at 1:30 a.m. I see. Good luck, my dears. Hello from Algeria. Hitcham says, this is my first time in your live. Welcome to the party. I'm on a mission first. Learning. Hello, good morning. I'm Sudanese. C says, I wish I would have conditional sentence type 2. Yeah. Yes, I know. C is always very good about saying like what the particular thing is we want to talk about. Like it's just much more difficult for you to think, oh, this is a conditional or this is a zero conditional or whatever. Rather than thinking about that, we just want to understand what is a person trying to express. So I wish I would have is like you're regretting that you didn't do something. So I wish, if only, so like another way of saying this is if, make sure that fits over there, if only I would have, so you could say that as well, if only I would have, or if only I something, whatever that is, if only. So rather than trying to think about the grammar name is useful for searching things, but it's very easy. You can ask ChatGPT, like, I wish I would have, what's the name of that grammar point? You can ask that as well, and it will tell you. But the name of that is not really useful for you in conversations if you don't know how to use it fluently. So that's why I don't care about really teaching like the particular grammar names other than telling people this is what it is so that they can search for it. Reno says, why Japanese are so bad in learning things? Well, I know Japanese seem to be doing fine and they seem to learn pretty well. I mean, it seems like a country is doing all right. A lot of smart people over here. Let's see. Can we use past continues in that example of regret? Well, you wouldn't really need to. Like, I wish I would have. I mean, you could say, like, I wish I would have been doing something. I wish I would have been paying attention. Like, you could say that, but I'm trying to give you a shorter, simpler way to express that. So let's say I'm watching my child, but then my child, I don't know, runs away and does something because I'm looking at something else. Oh no, I wish I would have paid attention is an easier way to say it than I wish I would have been paying attention. So you could use that, but native speakers are looking usually for the like the easiest way to say something or the fastest way to say it. Reno says, because of racism they have. What? Racism? What? You mean in Japan, racism? Dana, how can we correct ourselves as learners? Yes, so that is the whole point of this. So typically when people think about making mistakes, either it's while you're by yourself, and so in that case you can just either think about like I'm going to a party and I want to say congratulations to someone. So like I can ask ChatGPT or Google, like, how can I say that? Okay. But then you want to get lots of examples of that same thing. So this is why it's not necessary to try to remember like this whole thing. It's better just to get lots of examples because our brains don't really like, I wish I would have, and you're trying to think about it logically when we want you to just understand the pattern very well because you've seen it so much. Okay. The probably I would say like the number one thing for people not getting fluent is that they still have doubt because they just haven't reviewed something enough. So they still don't feel confident about how it's pronounced or whatever the issue might be. But that's typically why people would be struggling to speak. That's where the mistakes come from. Especially if you make the same mistake again and again, you really aren't feeling confident about something, so you should go back. If it's a situation or particular grammar structure or vocabulary, whatever, then get lots of examples. Okay? The examples are the things that are really going to help you get fluent faster. So you need varied examples, and it's even better if you can hear them from different native speakers. All right. Oh no, here comes a fire truck or an ambulance or whatever. But that's Tanya, how you can correct yourselves as learners. That's the whole point of this video. So we want you to correct your mistakes before you make them. And if you're in a conversation, you should also be listening to what other people are saying. I know it can be tricky because often language learners, you're trying to think about what you want to say and also paying attention to what the other person is saying. So I recommend like try to forget yourself. Just listen to the other person, even if you feel a little bit nervous. Really try to pay attention to what the other person is saying. And if you want to kind of practice your English, and by practicing I mean reviewing your English, if you want to do that in a conversation, just repeat what the other person says. So that's another kind of sneaky way to practice reviewing different things in a conversation. So if a friend of mine says like, I want you to come over at the top of the hour. And I think, oh, that's interesting. Like, I've never heard that expression before. So at the top of the hour. So if we think about, here's like some expression or some interesting vocabulary I hear, I can repeat that back to them just as a way to make a mental note and to try to remember that thing. So I might say, oh, you want me to come back at the top of the hour? And I'm just repeating it back to them. So I want you to come at the top of the hour. And I say, oh, you want me to come at the top of the hour? And if you don't know what that means, imagine a clock over here. So we have 12, 3, 6, 9. So this is the top of the clock here, and this is the top of the hour. So often radio shows will happen about like we have like the top of the hour is the start of that thing. So maybe like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at the top of the hour, top of the hour. So when you hear something, you can repeat that back to the other person if you're doing this in a conversation. But if you're by yourself and you're reading something or listening to something and you don't quite understand it, stop and get a bunch of examples of that thing. Okay, so you can get them from like Youglish.com. They will give you examples, tons of examples where you can listen to what natives are saying, or you can use ChatGPT or Google, but there are lots of ways for you to get these different examples that will make you feel more confident about that. So this is how you correct yourself and make sure you can, especially before you get into conversations, you can correct a lot of these things, and then you don't have to make the mistake when you're in the conversation. All right, Alfonso says, in the past I used to correct myself while speaking English with my counterparts. That helped me to become more fluent in English. Yeah, so if you can take time and people don't mind you like correcting your English in the middle of conversations. I know a lot of people are nervous or worried about that for various reasons, but if you don't want to do that, it's even easier to correct your English before you speak. So this is why we really focus on helping people be prepared for conversations by knowing the language really well. If you know the language well, you will feel confident, you will speak. Okay, so rather than trying to know it a little bit and speak and I said something wrong and I forgot my words in the conversation, just spend your time knowing the conversation or whatever that kind of topic is or that vocabulary really well. All right, Reno says he is already teaching the top of the class today. The top of the class, the topic, yes. Ahmad says, thank you very much. Sometimes we are afraid to practice the language for fear of making mistakes. So what is your advice? Well, yes, the whole idea of fear of practicing English comes from fear of making mistakes in front of other people. But what I'm telling you to do is you practice English by yourself. So rather than like trying to make mistakes in a conversation and then correcting those things, you should be thinking about like just getting lots of input, and that will give you really any kind of grammar structure you'd want to know, or how do we express things in different situations. If you are actively trying to learn rather than passively waiting for someone to speak to you and then you say something and make a mistake, that's a much slower, more difficult, more frustrating way to learn. So it's much faster if you learn in an active way where you're trying to actually learn things before you have conversations. So the preparation comes, and this is how you actually learn to speak correctly before you're in a conversation. So the fluency actually develops as you understand the vocabulary better. There's only like a small amount of improvement you could make just repeating something again and again. So I heard like a song. There's a new song for a Japanese TV show I heard. This is just a Japanese, maybe the Japanese watching this would know Ojaru Maru. And at the end, they have like an outro. For music or TV shows, they will have like an intro, like an introduction or intro music, and we also have like an outro. So this is the finishing song kind of thing, an intro and an outro. And so the outro music, there's a song, and I was trying to understand what they were saying, and like some of it was like one of the lines was like, what was that? I can't even remember what it was. It was like jinsei wa hitotsu dake. What was the line though? 比べられるものはないのです. So I was thinking like, okay, how do I, and that's just the thing where like you would have to practice like 比べられるものはないのです. 比べられるものはないのです. And I was like, okay, like I understand what the thing is, but it took me like a little bit just to, because it's like a tongue twister kind of. So like it's hard to, they're talking about like there's one life, and it's difficult to compare things. That's what the lyrics are saying, but the actual like 比べられるものはないのです. I was like, okay, like it's like it sounds nice, but it's a little bit difficult to say if you're just trying to think about the grammar. So in that case, like it's helpful to hear a bunch of different examples about it, but most of the improvement, so if I can draw, I'm getting too many things up here. Just to make this very clear for people, I know we have a lot of new people watching us. So if we just talk about like the English as a second language way of learning versus what I do, which is English as a first language, most people think if we imagine this is like a pyramid of all the things that you do to learn a language, usually what people in ESL do is like they have like a little bit of learning, like you kind of study something down here. We'll just put an S here for studying, and then we'll have like just T here for talking, like this is your like talking practice. And so people think that after you study something, well, the real like improvement comes up here when I'm talking, okay? But what I'm doing is really the opposite. It's like this is all like the kind of study and learning and the review before you speak. And so the actual improvement of talking is a very small part of what you do, okay? So this way, it's much easier, much faster, much more relaxing and comfortable because you don't have to practice in front of other people. You're just getting lots of examples. So I might hear like 20 different examples of something, and then I feel confident, and then in the situation, so when I have a chance to speak, then the vocabulary just comes out fluently. So when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, 比べられるのは like できないです or whatever. I could express it in different ways. But if I'm talking about like using something, it's after I've heard many examples of it. And if I don't feel confident about saying it, I should get more examples. Okay? So the confidence is all like built here, and maybe like a tiny amount of confidence comes at the end when you're saying something. But this is a much more difficult way to learn a language. Okay, so you're spending more time waiting for someone to talk with, and you think, well, I can't practice because I don't have anyone to speak with. What do I do? And then you also think, well, I guess I know this vocabulary already. Why can't I speak? And so this really causes all of the problems people have, and this creates all of the doubt and confusion that stops them from speaking. But this way over here, we want to destroy all the doubt as you learn, and that way when you speak fluently, okay? So you're actually developing fluency as you learn. But if you don't understand what you're learning, then of course you won't speak fluently, okay? So fluency isn't something that develops like through your like trying to practice like repeating things again and again. It really comes from understanding the language very well. So being knowledgeable about it and getting lots of examples that make you feel confident about the language. All right, let me make sure we're getting a lot of comments here. Let's see. All right. Okay, Ruslan says, hi, teacher. I wanted to thank you for your job. I like your method of teaching. All the best from you, from Ukrainian who lives in Toronto. Very good. Toronto RTI. And you would say from a Ukrainian who lives in Toronto. Very good. And again, like as you get more examples of this, you'll feel like, oh, I mean, typically people know a lot of vocabulary, but they can't quite stick things together because they're worried about little bits of grammar that they don't quite use fluently or correctly, and they're worried about that. So that's a big issue for people that stops a lot of them from speaking. It's not the larger vocabulary that you might know, it's sticking these pieces of vocabulary together. So spend more time with that. I promise you will become a much more confident speaker. All right, Rena says, have to use the from to describe where you from. Well, if I say like, where are you? Like, it's like, where are you? I don't know where you are. But if I'm saying, where are you from? I'm talking about like your origin. Did you come from a different country? That kind of thing. So where are you from? Well, Nils is back. Annette, I hear German. Yeah. Yes. Ich bin ein Berliner. Reno says, I'm Italy. No, I'm from Italy. Yes, so I am from Italy. And remember, your correct pronunciation, correct punctuation, all these things, I am from Italy. Or you can say, I'm Italian. I'm Italian. So remember, there are always different ways to express things. Yin Yang, look at that with the heart eyes over there. How to use must have and should have. Rather than like go into those specific things, look up, just go to ChatGPT and say, give me like must have and should have. So look up examples. But if you don't understand the idea like this, like I wish I would have, the idea, really the situation is we're talking about regret. So you feel regret. I wish I would have done something. So I wish I would have done something. So we connect with the emotion, we understand the situation. So even if we don't understand the specific grammar structure, we understand what's happening. So if you look at little kids watch their parents and their parents are like, I wish I would have done something. And so they see, oh, like my dad or mom is like, they feel bad, they are frustrated because they didn't do something. Okay, so they understand the situation even if they don't feel so confident about using the grammar. But you can be more proactive, more active about how you do something, how you learn and review. So as you get more examples, you will feel more confident about speaking. All right, so yes, like even those little things, like if you're looking at like must have or should have, like look for those two things. So number one, like what is the real idea being communicated? And number two, what are a bunch of examples that I can use to help me understand it? All right, Reynolds says, we use v to shorten I've been, yes, so you can shorten that as I have. Tiana says, what's the difference between start and begging? Oh, you mean beginning, like start and beginning? Well, it could be, I don't want to go into like a long explanation about like specific vocabulary for this video. I have done that before, but Google that. Ask ChatGPT. And like when you're looking for things like this, say like ask Google or ChatGPT or whatever like AI you use. Is there a time when we can say start but not begin? And you're looking for times when it's different to help you understand those things. So Keiko says, yes, Japanese culture is nice, but sometimes it's not nice. But Japan is great. What are you talking about? Yeah, I love you, Sensei. Well, thank you very much. It's good to be loved. All right. Did you watch Attack on Titan? I'm familiar with it, but I have not seen that. Teacher, do you have another podcast on Spotify? No, I do not. Allah, could you please explain how to understand complex texts and articles, especially considering I am in my 40s. Well, your age doesn't have anything to do with that, but I would be looking at like specific ideas within those texts, like look at specific sentences that you don't understand and then apply this same thing. If you can't understand from the context, then you can ask like ChatGPT, what does this mean? What are they talking about? But you have to spend the time to actually figure something out. So if you need to learn something for work or whatever, you have to read something complicated, then that's how you would use ChatGPT to help you do that. Brid says, Drew, in the past I had problems figuring out what the sentence was implying. Now you are making it clear. Yes. And so again, like a lot of speakers, when they're listening to someone, they really try listening to the words and try to understand what those words mean rather than kind of looking at the bigger picture and understanding like what is the emotion or what is the situation, what is the thing the other person is implying. So even if I can't speak, if you watch me and I start speaking an alien language and I'm like, so I just start speaking some random words like that, maybe you don't understand the vocabulary, but you can see I'm frustrated. So you begin to kind of work from the bigger picture of, okay, this is a negative emotion. He doesn't look very happy. Something is like that. Now we can, maybe if we hear it again, we will feel like better about understanding the specific vocabulary. All right, hopefully that makes sense. All right, Keiko says, I'm sorry I have to go to work today. I'm not lying, so I'm sorry for going first. It's okay. Astra says, Konnichiwa, o genki desu ka? Genki desu yo. I'm a Malaysian. I hope I can improve my English and be able to communicate with my fiance's family members in the UK. They speak in different accents. So here is another good example. Like I didn't mention specific like pronunciation or accents, but it's the same idea. So the same rule or law would apply to that. If I'm going to move to the UK, I should probably watch videos on YouTube about people who live in that particular area or something, and that would prepare me for understanding those kinds of speakers. So it's very easy to do. Like all this information is just waiting for you. Go pick it up. It's right there. Okay, it's already waiting for you. All right, LF, hey Drew, why some native speakers hold the ed sound for the verbs in the past tense? For example, I called the doctor sometimes sounds like I called the doctor. Typically what native speakers are doing, the reason for that is because it's faster to say, and usually from the context, people would understand. So if I say, yeah, I called the doctor. So I called the doctor. So I leave a little bit of space there, but you would know I'm talking about the past, so it's not really necessary to say it clearly. Yes, I called the doctor. I would only speak really clearly like that to another native if like my wife is saying, hey, did you call the doctor? I was like, yeah, I called the doctor. Really? Did you call the doctor? Yes, I called the doctor. Okay, so in that situation, I'm trying to be really specific. I'm being very clear, and it's not really about the language. It's just like, yes, I'm making it clear. I called the doctor. But most of this you can understand from context because you know it's not about the future because in that case, you would say, oh, I will call the doctor. So tomorrow I will call the doctor, okay? Tomorrow I will, or tomorrow I'm going to call the doctor. Both of those are fine. So these are things that as you listen to more native speakers, very good, you're hearing that they don't really say that, and that's why, because it's just not necessary. People understand from the situation what the person is talking about, and you don't need to like make it more clear. People already understand. Ray Goat says, the biggest problem that I face, that face me, you would say that faces me or that I face often is that whenever I start a conversation with a native speaker, they think I'm a native and just that puts me more load on my mind. Is it good? And how to deal with it. If you're like, you mean like because of how you look or something? Like they think you're going to be a good speaker, but you're actually not? That's the problem? That's interesting. But yeah, it's kind of like I have a friend who's Japanese, but he's raised in Brazil and he doesn't really speak Japanese very well. So he comes here and Japanese people will kind of try speaking with him and he's just like I don't I don't understand. And then someone else will have to kind of speak for him. So maybe that's the kind of situation you're talking about. But I don't know. I mean, in that case, like if you just have to speak with someone and just say you can make it like kind of a joke, like, oh, maybe I look this way, but actually like I don't know Japanese, like please teach me. Or in your case, I don't know English, please teach me. Or my English actually is not very good. So you can make that kind of like you can turn that around. This is the psychology part of language learning, where I could be scared about that, or if this situation happens again and again, I can think about what's like a kind of funny way to deal with that, where people start speaking with me and I'm just like, like I'm new here. I actually don't speak English. so like, oh, I'm new here. Like I'm new here, or my English actually isn't very good. But you can talk about that, and that kind of makes the conversation a bit more comfortable for everyone. So you tell people, hey, my English is actually not very good, so please speak more slowly. But you can say, but I'm excited to learn. Okay, so my English is not very good, but I'm excited to learn, and so people will feel a bit more kind of, because the other person also doesn't want to make you feel uncomfortable either. Okay. All right. I got that one. All right, Vince says, hey, Drew, correcting myself before I say something, will I not create some doubt and be hesitant speaker? Well, if you're correct, the whole point is, can you feel confident about something before you speak? And if you can, then you won't make the mistake when you speak. Or if you do, it would just be like, oh, maybe I don't know, was thinking about something else or whatever. But it will be the kind of mistake that a native will make when maybe they say something and it doesn't come out very well, but they know the language well. They're just maybe like this time or something, they're not expressing themselves perfectly, and that's okay. I should have put up front that I'm not native. No, you don't have to say that you're not native or whatever, but I'm guessing it's because of how you look or maybe something you do that people are guessing that. But it's an interesting thing that we kind of project that. So now that I speak Japanese fluently, Japanese people will speak with me like I'm fluent even before they hear me speak. So I'm just standing around or something and they will start talking to me in Japanese. All right. But like typically you can look at a foreigner and a foreigner will give that impression that they can't speak. And so Japanese people wouldn't try to say anything to them, or maybe they would try to speak English or something. But it's an interesting, an additional part of the psychology of learning and expressing yourself. C says, what does it mean at advance? You probably mean in advance. It just means before something. So if people will often say like thank you in advance, it's just like I'm asking you to do something for me, I'm thanking you in advance for doing that thing. So even before you've done the thing, I'm saying thank you. Brother says hello from Alabama. Nice to see you there. Have you ever downloaded an app for speaking with English learners? No, I have not. Well done and very helpful, sir. Glad to hear it. Rocky says, your Japanese sounds smooth. Do you think we are better to practice? Or you would say, like, do you think it's better to practice reading out sentences in chunks so we can get our tongue used to the rhythm of the target language? Yes, I think that's helpful. So again, that's kind of coming from up here. So even in Fluent for Life, most of the program is it's this down here, helping you really understand something, but there will be sections where you repeat after things just to practice saying words or get used to the pronunciation, that kind of thing. So there is some kind of practice that comes from speech, but most of it, the real thing that stops people from speaking is typically not accent. Like that could be a problem, but it's more like using incorrect grammar and getting stuck, and that's usually a bigger issue for people because they just don't understand the vocabulary well enough. Alex says, hi from China, the third time. Nice to see you again. Muti says, so you mean not to worry about grammar when we speak? No. My point is that you should worry about grammar before you speak. Worry about grammar before you speak. So if you're thinking, and you might be talking to yourself or whatever, or you're listening to something and you hear, oh, that's interesting, like I can understand that, but maybe I can't express that same thing. So here we have an example of a grammar point where you understand it, but do you feel confident using that thing? If you don't, then stop, then take that information and like put it in Youglish or ChatGPT or something where you can get a lot more examples or many more examples of that thing, and that will make you feel more confident about using it. So if I hear something and I'm like, oh, okay, I understand what someone is saying, but I have to ask myself, do I feel confident saying that? All right, so there's like usually a larger amount of vocabulary that you know and a smaller amount of vocabulary that you feel confident saying. Okay, so you need to have confidence here, and you don't really need so much confidence here. You're just listening for what other people are saying. But if you want to use this, if you want to expand this circle, then you need to spend more time feeling more confident, getting more confident, and you do that by getting more examples of that thing until you really understand that thing very well. Okay, so sometimes I'm not saying you need to get 100 examples of everything. The point is just to get enough until you really feel confident that you understand something. Okay, so you could get one example, and often when I teach, I'm trying to give you a few examples to really help you understand something, to give you that aha moment. This is called a fluency trigger, where I basically make you understand something very well, and you feel more confident about saying it. Okay, so it doesn't take a lot of examples, but if you can spend time, you should be spending more time in general in your life listening and learning to things, or listening to and learning things, rather than speaking, even in your native language. Okay, most people are not spending all day speaking. Even like a newspaper reporter or somebody, or like a person on TV news, people who talk professionally, probably spend a lot of time actually listening to things or reading things as well. Okay, so the same kinds of things you would do in your native language, you would do that in English. Let's see, where did we get stuck? Or where did we stop? Okay. All right, Saddam says, what do you do for good vocabulary for writing in exam? Well, I don't know. I like typically an exam would have some relation to whatever you're learning, so I would get the vocabulary from there. Flavio says, I'm from Brazil. Keiko, I wish I had more time today. Is this correct? Yes, perfect. So you can say, like, instead of like, I wish I had done something, you can say, I wish I had more time. I wish I were more handsome. I wish I were a faster runner. I wish I had more time. So again, that's an excellent way to use it. Very good. I wish I had more time today. All right, I'm late. As always, it's okay, Nicholas. No worries. The dark cardinal with some hearts over the Alex. Now I asked ChatGPT, make 5 different sentences of the first same meaning by different vocabularies. Teacher told you me the most important thing is situation, situation, situation. Yes. So like the idea of a situation is just so you understand what we call the big picture. What are people actually saying? Because if you understand the big picture, then you think, oh, okay, this person is just, they feel sad, or they feel regret, or frustration, or anger, or whatever, or they're talking about something. But there are many different ways of expressing that. So if you ask ChatGPT, like, how can I express regret? Like, or, and you can even like give ChatGPT like, I'm sad that my dog died. So you can give ChatGPT a target sentence and say, give me 10 different sentences that express the same thing in different ways. And it will tell you that. It's like, I really feel bad that my dog died, or my dog passed away, or I lost my dog, or my dog, whatever, something like that. But you will get 10 different examples, and so you can control that, and basically you can teach yourself. And so you, like what we're talking about in this video, you can correct your own mistakes. So the point is, if you can understand these things as you learn them, then you don't need to wait for a teacher or someone else to come explain something to you. Vincent says, hi, Drew. Is it right to learn individual phrases or to learn individual words or learning phrases? Well, you will learn both, but typically you will hear phrases of English and you will get both of those. And there's a connection, obviously, between the words within a sentence and something else. So you might learn a phrase. And I often cover these in videos, but you might hear a particular phrase. Like what's a good example? Yesterday, I went, what's a good example? So now this is the problem when you have like an infinite number of ways you could talk about something. Just to give a single example, sometimes it comes more slowly. So I went to, I got one. So I caught a game yesterday. So I caught a game yesterday. So let's say I hear that like, oh, okay, like caught a game. That's interesting. Like this is a particular phrase that people will use often. Or like a friend might ask me like, did you catch the game? Did you catch the game yesterday or whatever? So when you hear something like that, you're hearing the phrase, but you're also hearing the individual words across different sentences, okay? So maybe one person says this, and tomorrow a different person says something similar. And look at that. It's like, oh, I caught something, I catch something. And you mean like, whoa, that's interesting. Did you catch the game? And so first we think, what is this person really trying to ask me? Even if I don't understand these particular things, like my friend is probably asking me if I saw or watched a particular maybe sports event or something like that. So usually there's some kind of context here. I don't just walk up to a random person and say, hey, did you catch the game? Unless it's like something that everybody would know about. So an example of that would be like, let's say, so Shohei Ohtani is a famous baseball player from Japan who now plays for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and lots of Japanese people watch the games. And so when like the World Baseball Classic or whatever the name of that is, like I think that was last year maybe, but like when I think that was in Japan, and a lot of Japanese people were watching that, and I could say, if I'm speaking English with someone like, oh, did you catch the game? And they would probably guess that I mean, oh, the game with Ohtani in it. All right. So like when we're talking about things like that, typically you will hear a phrase, and you might hear that same phrase used from different people, but we also learn the individual meanings of things like that. So when you hear like, did you catch the game? We have an idea of like, you probably know catch, like, oh, I caught a bug, or I caught a cold, something like that. Like I throw up the marker and catch the marker like that. But we can also catch something like, oh, like, did you catch the game? So it typically, like, to catch a game like that is like you could go watch it, or you see it on TV, or even you saw only a little bit of that game. So if a friend of mine says, oh, did you catch the game yesterday? Oh yeah, I caught a little bit of it, or I caught the end of the game. So I saw like the last bit of the game. Okay. So I don't tell people, hey, focus on phrases or focus on individual words, because really, like, they're actually connected, okay? But typically you will, like young children, when they're learning things, they're actually doing these things at the same time. But the kind of better advice is just, in general, learn like a native. So learn English as a first language, and listening to people like this, like, what would a native say in this situation? So another way they might be say, hey, did you watch? So did you watch some baseball game? Or did you see some baseball game? Or whatever. Okay? So I could hear all of these things from different people. Did you watch it? Did you see it? Did you catch it? Okay? And so as you hear that, you learn like the kind of meaning of catch has different meanings, or could have related meanings in different situations, but they all have the same kind of core meaning of like getting, receiving, something like that. So did I catch the game? I didn't catch the game like with a bug catching net or something like that, but I caught the game. Yeah, I watched it. I saw it. I caught the game. Okay, I caught a cold over the weekend. I caught a cold. All right, let's see if we can get through these. We've been going for an hour so far. All right, Reno says, we need a donate button, teacher. Don't have one. Yes, you'll notice I don't have, I also don't run ads on my videos because it's kind of a waste of your time. So the people who support me are the people who join my programs. That's really the only way I make any income from like doing stuff on YouTube or whatever. I don't look at Drew is already rich. Yeah, I probably could make a little bit more money by running advertising on the channel, but like it's like I don't do that for a number of reasons, which I've talked about already. I think I have to run some ads, like some videos, but when you come to my channel, I want you to just get straight to the learning without having to wait or click on anything or skip anything you don't want to watch. Just Do It says, what's your nationality? I am from the United States. MBO says, hi, Drew, I understand what you are speaking about. Am I fluent in English? I'll probably make a video about this too, because people keep asking me about that. But your ability to understand me and your ability to speak are two different things. So even if you understand me, it just means you understand me. That's really all it means. So there will be other people who speak English at a fluent, fast level. Maybe they use lots of difficult vocabulary, or maybe quotes from movies and TV shows and things like that, and you won't understand what people are saying. And so maybe you can understand me, like this person, but you might have trouble understanding other people or still using what you learn. Giahui, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, what does the word redemption mean? I've been looking for the meaning of the word, and there's a lot of meaning. Well, to redeem is typically like coming back in some way. So if I like redeem a coupon, like I bring the coupon back to the store and I can get like a free drink or something like that to redeem something. And you could also have a redemption of like a person who does something bad, but then they become a good character later. So that's like to redeem something. So it's like there's like some kind of like going back or going up and then or going down and then coming up again kind of thing. But again, get more examples. And like a lot of that, I don't want to spend a video giving 20 different examples of a particular word because that's already done for you in ChatGPT or whatever. Let's say S says garizo inaino. I don't know, you have to look. Garizo. Let's see, Con says, hello, I like your contents, glad to hear. If you know other people who would enjoy it, please share the video. Sir, could I know the difference between talk to and talk with? Typically talk to, like you could use both of these in the same way, but if you're talking to someone, it's like all of me, like right now I'm talking to you. All right. And it typically, that could also mean having a kind of negative meaning where like I'm like talking to my children or I'm giving them a talking to where I'm basically telling them something like, why did you do that? You made a mistake or whatever. We need to do this better. So I'm talking to someone. But talking with usually implies like back and forth. So I'm talking with someone. So I say something, they say something. It's more of a conversation. But sometimes people will use those and have the same meaning. But that would be the slight nuance if someone is like my boss was talking to me after work. So it's like he was telling me something. All right, I wasn't really having a conversation. He was talking to me rather than doing something. So just remember, to by itself is like you're talking about the direction of something. But with is like a connection between those things. So Cisa, I think redemption is kind of similar with repay. It's strong, relate with religious context. Well, it like redemption doesn't necessarily mean religion, but again, that's why we try to get lots of varied examples. So that way we're not thinking like, oh, redemption means like only religion, because you can have an evil character in a story that has a redemption arc. So it means like he redeems himself in the story. He does, something positive or whatever, does something helpful in the end. Moose says, thank you for the clarifications. My pleasure. Red Goats, yeah, in my case is the same as you. They hear me speaking or hear my accent. They think I can speak fluently, so they start a high-level conversation, and I can manage it, but sometimes it feels frustrating. Yeah, so if something like that happens again and again, then you take control of that and make it your thing. Make it more fun. So you can say, oh, like actually I'm new here. Like I've been practicing, you can say I've been practicing my accent so I sound native, but actually my English is not very good. So you can say something like that and actually control the conversation, and then people will think, okay, like this guy is confident or whatever, and I can have a better conversation, but they will feel more relaxed about that. So part of when we're in a conversation, we're also trying to make the other person feel more comfortable if we can. All right, Emilio says, really useful class. Glad to hear it. Claviero says, there is. What should I do if I don't understand the subtitles in the replay? Understand the subtitles in the replay, please. You mean like in this video or any of them? Typically, also subtitles are released for these videos usually a day after the video is done. So after the video is live, they're typically released then. But if you don't understand something, I would slow it down and try to think again about the context of something. And if you don't understand everything, it's not it's not the end of the world. It's okay if you don't understand it all. All right, Jackie Chan, so I can follow your live streaming. C says, I have a bunny picture. Armando says, I have to catch up the same that I have to. Catch up the same that I have to talk. Oh, so you're talking about like we need to catch up. Like if you're talking, it just means like, yeah, we need to talk. But catch up doesn't mean talk. It just means I need to find out what you've been doing with your life. So a lot of these things like a phrasal verb like catch up, which we cover in our visual guide to phrasal verbs, you think about typically a physical origin of some kind of word. Like if you imagine like two people are racing or two cars or something like that. So if they're going at the same pace, they're going together. But if one car is going faster than the other one, this second car here needs to catch up to this one. Okay, so this is like we need to catch up. We need to get to the same level. So this is the physical origin of something like that, to catch up to something else. So one person is running and another person, oh, I need to run faster to catch up to that person. And so we take that idea and then we apply that in life. So like here is like my life is I'm doing something over here. My life, I'm doing something over here. And now we need to reconnect. We need to catch up. So we usually catch up by talking. But the idea is just like, oh, it's been a while. We need to catch up. Okay? So when you understand the situation, you're not trying to translate like catch up meaning talk. It's like, oh, catch up is like, look, we're disconnected and now we need to reconnect. We need to catch up again. So typically, again, like one thing is ahead or in a different place, and now this one needs to catch up to that person. Okay, same idea. All right. Okay, Diego says, hello, I'm on my bed just listening to you and practicing my listening. Excuse me. Thank you for the class. Very useful content here. Greetings from Brazil. Well, it's my pleasure. Glad to hear it. Bogdan says, hello there. Drop the like, guys. Yes. Could you give us best app or platform to practice speaking in live mode? Again, I don't recommend people do that. The whole point of this video is that that's a waste of your time. So I don't have a site where I would recommend you go to practice live speaking, because why would you do that when it's much faster to improve by yourself? So you can, I'm sure you can, just Google like live practicing sites or whatever, or like practice your English or something like that. So these sites are created for people because most people think they need to speak to practice their English, but you don't actually improve that way. I mean, you could, if you are improving in a conversation, it's because you're understanding more from the other person you're speaking with. Okay, so if I speak, like let's say I practice speaking and the other person has a lower level than me, I'm probably not going to improve at all, because like the only improvement really comes when I'm speaking and actually learning and understanding my own vocabulary better, or learning new things that are correct from the other person. So if I'm doing this, it's much faster and easier for me and more comfortable just to do it by myself, and I can get lots of examples from native speakers. So why would I need to practice with anybody else? So you can do that, but most of the things that I talk about are just the reason you don't speak well is because of the doubt you have. So it doesn't make sense to force yourself to speak. It's much easier to clear the doubt. Okay, so why wouldn't you do that? If someone has a good response, if you would rather speak with someone, then like do it the faster and easier way, that's fine, but you don't have to do that. So I have to keep reminding people of this, because everyone tells you that you have to speak in order to improve, but really the improvement just comes from that moment of understanding something better. So that could come from a conversation. So you could be speaking with someone and you hear something like, oh, they use that, some interesting phrase or expression or a grammar point or something, and I learn a little bit more. So I improve from that, but it's because of what the other person said to me. Okay, so if I'm not speaking and it's what the other person says to me that gets me fluent, then why am I looking for people to practice with? I should be just getting lots of examples that help me understand things. And I can control exactly what I'm learning. So if I already know how to talk about this, then I don't need to spend more time with that thing. I should go talk with somebody else. So often in our work or jobs or daily life or whatever, we kind of talk about the same things. And this is why many people, they understand a lot, they know a lot of English for their job, but they have trouble talking about things outside of their job, because they talk a lot about their job and they hear those same things again and again. They've already become comfortable with that. So they feel confident about that already. But if you talk about something new, you should spend your time doing that so you feel much more confident about that. So if I keep talking about, like if I have a friend and he keeps telling me about like painting his house over and over and over again, like, okay, I already know about that. Like I should spend my time learning about something I don't know about. Okay, so that's why you don't see me recommending things like that. You can, like after you're already confident, finding a site to do that with, it's much easier. Like what we do in Fluent for Life is we actually teach people how to get out and practice and how to meet different people to speak with. So how to meet native speakers, which is like who you should really be speaking with rather than trying to talk with more teachers. So we are kind of giving you the teaching information and also giving you lots of examples, but if you want to find people to practice with, that's how we do it. But for me, like I don't use any kind of speaking Japanese like one-to-one lessons or anything like that. I just talk with people, okay? And if I can't have someone physically with me, then I could easily meet people online, but I would do it with natives rather than trying to look for teachers, okay? So that's my long explanation about that. All right, let's see. Ditto says Shinosuke-san. Let's see. Thank you for your explanation, sir. It's my pleasure. You got my best, gotcha, my best teacher, glad to hear. Diego says, very good points. Every language has 4 dimensions, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The ultimate goal is to dominate all of these 4 or all 4 of these dimensions, in my humble opinion. Yes. So again, it's much easier to kind of practice the things like reading and writing because there's no pressure on you to respond quickly. But if you want to develop speaking, then you can actually do this by yourself just by getting lots of examples from other people. Okay, so it should be pretty easy. Does this make you feel more excited that you don't need to speak? I know it sounds unbelievable. I know. When I discovered this, I thought, like, this is crazy. It's not, like, of course you have to speak to improve your vocabulary or whatever. But when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I guess, like, what am I actually doing in a conversation? What I'm actually doing is, like, listening to what other people say, and that's how I'm learning. So unless I want to get a specific response from someone, maybe 20 years ago, like that was the only way to get information because we didn't have Google or the internet or whatever. But now all of that is available. So there's all that information. Anything you could want to learn about is available right now. Okay, so you don't need to wait for anything or wait for anyone. You can do that by yourself. All right, Abkadarian, that's an interesting name. You are a teacher who always makes one's English richer. Glad to hear it. Yes, and so hopefully by that you mean that I'm able to improve your fluency without you saying anything. But what I try to do in these videos is you'll notice I cover some things again and again, but I always explain them in slightly different ways. Okay, and then I cover new things and teach you some new vocabulary as well, but I'm not trying to overwhelm you with too much information. People who just listen to the way I speak, they start to understand me and they start to understand other people and they're learning more things. And so what we do in Fluent for Life, we take you up to that next level where you're really getting many more examples of native speakers saying these things as well. All right, let's see. All right, Vadim says, when I need to use time with the word have. Like you mean like have time to do something? You can just say I have time, or it depends. Like you can say I want time, I wish I had time, or I need time to do something. So it's not like just have goes with time. You can use many things with time, but Google that. Use ChatGPT, get a lot more examples. All right, confidence tips for speaking in more formal settings, please. I would get some examples of how people are speaking. Like, if you mean like a formal setting, like you could find videos on YouTube about like people talking at a conference or something. I'm sure you can find people just walking around talking. And even if you were doing that, like if I want to know how to talk about something, I would go to that thing or find videos or something like that and just listen and get all those examples. So if I want to know how to order food at a restaurant, I can go and just sit and listen to other people order food. Very easy. If I can't do it at a physical restaurant, I just do it online, same thing. Or I ask ChatGPT or Google or whatever, it's not like native speakers, again, have many ways of saying things, just like you probably have many ways of saying things in your native language. And so if I go to Google or a regular English lesson, just like, how do you order food at a restaurant? Like, oh, may I have this? Or I would like this. That you maybe get a few different examples, but if you watch natives, there are really many different ways. Like, I'll have something. Let me think. We need a minute. I'm sorry. So if you go to a restaurant, sometimes you'll hear that. Like there are all these little situations, like maybe a waiter comes up to your table and says, are you ready to order? Or do you know what you'd like? Or are you ready? You can say, not yet. Could you come back in a minute? Or we're not ready yet. So that's a specific situation where, like, what is that? Otherwise, they come up and you're like, I'm not ready. I don't know what I want yet. Just say, no, not yet. Could you come back in a moment or in a minute or something like that? So maybe you're still thinking about what you want to do. So Japan solved this problem just by putting a little bell on the table. So when you're ready, they just say, just ring the bell. All right, let's see. We're going to go to, I'll catch your level up, teacher. Well, you can say, if you're talking about like to reach my level, you would say, I'll catch up to your level. I'll catch up to your level. All right, man says, Jaja, I lost. If you speak slow, I love it. All right, sir, I have one question. I wonder if in your daily life you speak like this because you're listening. Yeah, so again, I do speak like this sometimes, but it depends who I'm speaking with. So if I'm speaking with, again, we'd have that speak to or speak with. If I'm speaking with people who, like, I understand so I have a friend, for example, we joke with each other a lot, and I say, hey, I saw you like on a wanted poster. Like they're like wanted posters of you up in the neighborhood or whatever. And we're kind of joking with each other about that. And I know he knows what a wanted poster is, so I can use that reference. So this is if you go to the police station, there's a picture of somebody and it says wanted. It's like like the police are looking for somebody like that. So I'm saying he's a criminal or he's in trouble or something like that. So typically I'm speaking faster. I'm using vocabulary that people might not know, so I don't use that, and I'm quite careful about how I speak. And this is often like native speakers, so Red Goat gave that same example before about if people think you can speak well, then they will speak at a higher level because they're assuming they're making a connection with you using language that they think that you know. Okay, so they think you know something, and so they will start speaking with you. But if you actually don't know it, then they're like, oh, okay, I have to speak in a simpler or slower way. All right. I think we're almost to the bottom over here. All right, Rodrigo says, brother, you changed my life back in 2013, 2014. I learned a lot from you. Wow, well, welcome. That was 10 years ago. Hopefully you're doing well. It's my pleasure. If you know other people we can help, send them my way. Let's see. Cecibel says, hello, Fabricio from Brazil. Ilder, nice to see you. I heard you a long time. No see. Hopefully you're doing well, Rodrigo again. I got a scholarship to study in the U.S., A lot of my English skills came from your channel for sure. Thanks a lot. Oh, fantastic. Nice work. Reynolds says, Brazilians keep on saying hello, but only 2% of Brazilians speak English. That's intriguing. I don't actually know what percentage of Brazilians speak English. But yeah, we do certainly a lot of Brazilians learning the language. Fabricio says, what is the best study method to learn the first words in English? Actually, I would download Frederick if you want to do that. Frederick, anybody can click on the link in the description below this video to get that. That is our app that will teach you the basics of pronunciation, going all the way up to more difficult things, as well as basic vocabulary and some grammar as well. But also our basic, I think the playlist on our YouTube channel is Best Beginning English Grammar or something like that. But watch that video series and it will teach you English in English. But the whole point, the most important point about both of those things is that they teach you English as a first language. So they help you understand English in English rather than you translating. So that will get you fluent much faster. Why kids become fluent even though their parents are not the best teachers? Well, typically they get fluent because they're getting many different examples from lots of different people or television or whatever. So my kids, they will learn things and use expressions that I did not teach them. But if you have a child and the parent together all the time, then the child really only learns what the parent teaches them. So it's the environment that the child gets that lets them learn faster. So even if the teachers are not good speakers, if the children have lots of examples of other English, then they will get that, or whatever language. Let's see. Leonardo says, you speak so fast, but I get all that you say. Yes. So I'm trying to speak a little. I'm not speaking slowly. I'm still blending my words together, but I'm speaking clearly and still blending my speech the way a native would. So the difference typically is that like a native speaker would be less clear than me, but they would also be, I guess it's like the vocabulary is really much more different, or much different, I should say. So they use like some movie quotes or something like that, and that comes from, if I'm having a personal conversation with someone, I will tailor my speech to that person. And so since this is a lesson that anybody in the world might watch, I have to be careful about my language. And if I teach something, I have to explain it, make sure people understand what I'm talking about. All right. Yes, a lot of Brazilians. Okay, Leonardo says, I would really like to hear more about syllables, open and close. Just get Frederick. It'll cover all that for you. All right, Rodrigo, guys, he is the best English teacher out there. Trust me, much love. Thanks again. Glad to hear it. Yes, send us a testimonial. Send us like a video of you speaking at info@englishanyone.com. I have a bunch of those, but I'm like too lazy to put them up on the site. I should. We have like videos of people who've been through our programs or people that we've helped. But if we've helped you, let us know. That's great. I really appreciate your efforts. It's obviously how heart-kind you are and forgive our errors. No, it's my pleasure. I know how it's like. What is your accent where you live? I don't know if you're talking about me. So I'm from the United States, but I live in Japan. Yeah, and so I have, some people say I have kind of a, what is it? I don't know, almost like a Southern accent. You don't really hear that in these videos, but I get kind of relaxed with my speech, and I say y'all, like you all, y'all, a lot. But anyway, look at that. We got to the end of the comments list over there. All right, well, thank you very much. So again, just a quick recap for this video. The important thing is you can try to do the kind of slower, more difficult approach, which is meeting people and trying to speak, and then you say something and you make a mistake and you feel bad about it and it's just more difficult. Or you can spend time learning things you're interested in, learn a lot about the specific situations, what vocabulary we would use, or you can learn about specific vocabulary or grammar points. But the important thing is that you get lots of review of that thing. So the naturally varied review, this is what I call getting varied different examples of things. So we're not just repeating something again and again. This is important so you can hear different examples from different speakers, but it's also really necessary just to help you understand what you're learning. So if you only hear one word or one phrase again and again, it's not really helping you understand it better. And when you don't understand something, you won't feel confident about speaking. Okay, so that's the goal, and that's, again, how you can practice English by yourself. If you'd like help doing this, we guide everybody step by step through this whole process in Fluent for Life, and especially people who have questions, we answer those as well. All right, I often keep your videos on when I sleep. Glad to hear it. Let's see, can we ever begin? I was in subjunctive mood or whatever. Can we ever begin? Can we ever begin? I don't understand the question, but if you're looking for specific examples of the subjunctive, just Google that, and you will find plenty of examples. But the point is, get more examples when you can really understand something. That's when you really start speaking. So get a lot of examples. So the next video should be, what day is today? Monday, probably Thursday this week. So 3 days from now, I think. But if I'm not there, please don't be angry at me. Maybe something happened or something like that. But typically these videos are Mondays and Thursdays, Japan time. Again, if you'd like to know more, click on the links in the video description. So the links in the description below this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.